What is Meliodas' true magic form in the 7 deadly sins? It is Meliodas' most powerful form, but the truth of what it is remains a mystery. Unfortunately, the form was only seen for a limited period of time before it was taken away, and it will most likely never be seen again. The form looks remarkably similar to the form the Demon King had when he took over Meliodas' body, except in this form, Meliodas is in control. This hints at the form being the manifestation of the Demon King, like power Meliodas has, known as his true magic. This power is stronger than both the Demon King and Supreme Deity, to the point where he was able to break his and Elizabeth's curse using this form. It allows him to use more power than he was ever able to before, but it came at a cost. The power was so strong that Meliodas couldn't coexist with mortal life for more than a day, so he would be forced to forever live in purgatory or the demon realm, but he managed to get around it by making the ultimate sacrifice, and it's the reason the form will never be seen again. He destroyed the 10 commandments that were left behind after the Demon King's defeat, but it came at the cost of his true magic. You know that a lot more was supposed to happen when Alia came over to help Kuze's sickness. And Alia sometimes hides her feelings in Russian. The anime shows majority of what happened between the two, but leaves out arguably the most important parts of the interaction between them that the light novel has. In the novels, as soon as Alia arrives, Kuze was directed to go lay down in his room. Then Alia walked in the room with some tea to help his illness and offered to make him porridge. And when she came back with the food, she asked where his parents were. That's when Kuze revealed a little bit about his past to her, and it made Alia make up a bold decision in her head. He told her that his parents were divorced and his dad was gone because of work, making Alia realize how little she actually knew about Kuze, given that she had just found out about his birthday the other day. Because of this, she came to the conclusion that once he got better, she was going to talk to him even more to get to know him better. But even more happened after Kuze thanked Alia for all she was doing for him. Because of everything she did for him while he was sick, as well as all the help she gave him over the time they've known each other, he was expressing his gratitude, but Alia argued that it was the least she could do after all the help he's been to her. But when Kuze said there was no need to thank him, because everything he does for her is because he wants to, it made Alia ask what it meant and why he always helped her, but he fell asleep before he could answer. Did you know that in Mushoku Tensei, Orsted has actually been stuck in a time loop? After Rudius became Orsted's subordinate, Orsted explained to him that he had a secret art created by the first dragon god that enabled him to see the flow of destiny and exempt him from the laws of the world. But it came at the cost at his mana regenerating around 100 times slower than a normal person's would. However, part of this was a lie, as Orsted didn't know if he could trust Rudius completely. But after Rudius and Orsted successfully made Ariel the king of Asura, Rudius had gained Orsted's trust, and Orsted was ready to reveal the full truth about him to Rudius. He revealed that the only reason he learned the secret art was because it guaranteed victory against the man god, and it was the only reason he learned the art, even though it gave him such a big disadvantage. He explained that the secret art doesn't let him see the flow of destiny, but actually traps him in a time loop until he defeats the man god. And if at any point Orsted during the loop, or 200 years pass, the loop will be reset to the same exact point it started, and Orsted will retain all of his memories from the past loops.
Why did Ai and Koji decide to not grab any of the water they offered at the start of the Year 2 Island exam in Classroom of the Elite? Since Ai and Koji is aiming to win, or at least place high in this island exam, it would make sense to grab the water they offered at the start to make it easier on him later on, but he decided against it. And even though he's the perfect human, Ai and Koji still needs water to survive, so for 2 weeks, he's going to have to figure it out. Of course, there are ways to get water, like Ai and Koji mentioned, he can get water through rainwater or from the challenges hosted on the island, but there's a huge issue with that. Because rainwater is never guaranteed, it's hard to rely on that as a main source of water. And for the challenges, it'd wear down his stamina over time, especially when he's short on water. And the time the challenges take could prevent him from getting the Arrival Order award bonus from designated areas. But I don't think that's a huge problem, given that Ai and Koji could place first in the challenges if he wanted and get the bonus points from that. However, there's one huge reason to not grabbing anything that would make a lot of sense as to why he didn't. And it's kind of the same reason he didn't join his study group mates when invited to on the island. And that's because lugging around a bunch of extra water everywhere would slow him down and hold him back. Why is there no Sin Archbishop of Envy in ReZero? In one of Subaru's final loops of Arc 3, Pedogyu said that out of the 6 Sin Archbishops, Pride is the only one missing. And since we know that all the other sins have a Sin Archbishop, it not only means that Envy is missing, but there's not even a seat at the table for Envy as a Sin Archbishop. And the reason for this is found in what makes a person a Sin Archbishop, as every single Sin Archbishop possesses the witch factor of their respective sin. And that's also the source of power from which their authorities come from. And I think this also explains why Pride has a seat as a Sin Archbishop but is empty, as the witch factor of Pride exists out in the world somewhere, but it could be that someone hasn't claimed it and or it hasn't been found and given to someone by the witch's cult yet. It is also possible that there is a person with the witch factor but they haven't joined the cult yet. As for Envy, there is no seat for it as a Sin Archbishop because of the nature of witch factors, as the owner of a witch factor has to die in order for the factor to be transferred to someone else. However, Satella never died, she was just sealed, meaning that she is still in possession of the witch factor of Envy, and that makes it impossible for someone else to hold it and for a Sin Archbishop of Envy to exist. Did you know that an Alia sometimes hides her feelings in Russian? The election race for student council president can become really extreme, and that's exactly what happened to Alia and Yuki's. Being in the student council alone basically guarantees someone for success, but the position of student council president has benefits that make it almost as valuable as having a high-ranking political position, as when someone is the student council president, they are leading the most recognized, prestigious school in Japan, and nearly everybody who has held the position has gone on to have a significant political position. Presidents and vice presidents also join a committee made up of former students that held the position after they graduate, all of which are people who are big CEOs, diplomats, or something of the sort, and they collectively have a strong influence over what happens at the school and even in Japan as a whole. Because of that, some things students will do to win the election have been and can be very extreme. In the past, students used whatever methods they could to win the election, whether that was through money, power, or even violence. It was to the point where it wasn't unusual for people to get expelled or injured during elections. And during Alia and Yuki's election race, people did get injured, as someone invited delinquents to infiltrate the school festival.
Did you know that in ReZero, Season 2 was supposed to end on a massive cliffhanger? In the light novel, there would be a chapter after Subaru's knighting that was meant to be the real end of Arc 4. The chapter would begin with a girl in the body of Ryuzu Shima walking out of a chamber and into the forest of the sanctuary, and it would be the first time in a long time that she would have seen real sunlight. Despite that, the girl did not feel any emotions for her reconnection with the outside world. The girl was uncomfortable in her new body, as she had just fit her soul into it, but she believed that she would familiarize herself with it over time, due to the fact that the person in the body was no longer Ryuzu Shima, but instead the girl. The girl decided to give herself a new name, and she decided she would call herself Omega. As Omega began her walk out of the forest, she talked to herself about the situations of Roswell, Beatrice, and Garfield after the liberation of the sanctuary, and she became curious about what would happen next. As the chapter began to end, the identity of the girl would be revealed to be Echidna, who was once again alive in the outside world.
Did you know that in Mushoku Tensei, there's actually 11 other demon eyes that Rudius could have gotten? He ended up getting pretty lucky with Kishirika giving him the Eye of Foresight because it's one of the better eyes out of the 12 demon eyes she could have given him. However, only 7 of them are known and they all have different abilities and functions. First, there's the Magic Power Eye. It's the most common demon eye, but I think its function is kind of useless, as all it does is allow the user to see the flow of mana. Then there's the Identification Eye, which allows users to see the details of the object they're looking at, but it's limited to the knowledge that Kishirika has on the item. And then there's the X-Ray Eye, which should be kept away from Rudius at all costs because it allows the users to see through objects such as walls or clothes, but they can't see through living beings. There's also Eyes of Distant Sight, which allows the user to see a focus point far away, but it's hard to maintain that focus. Then there's Absorption Eyes, which absorb magic power, but also absorb the magic power of the user, which makes it basically terrible. Then there's the All-Seeing Eyes, which gives the ability to see all things in the world. And finally, the eyes that I think are the most useful compared to the others, the Eyes of Foresight.
Did you know that in Mushoku Tensei, Rudius and Orsted had a rematch against each other? Last time the two of them faced off, Orsted practically unalived Rudius, but that was still when Rudius was a kid, so how did he do in their rematch? During this time, Rudius had recently found out that the man god was actually an enemy to him and a threat to his family. Because of this, Rudius begged the man god to leave his family alone, and he was given one way to achieve that, which was unaliving Orsted. So, with the help of the man god, Rudius prepared for his fight, creating magic battle armor that gave him offensive and defensive abilities that was comparable to the 7 7 great powers. And the armor was also equipped with a stone cannon machine gun and a magic absorption stone he got from the Hydra. Then, thanks to Nanahoshi, Rudeus was able to lure Orsted out to a deserted village. And once Orsted arrived, Rudeus launched a surprise attack by striking him with a king-level lightning spell. This was followed up by a barrage of stone cannons and other attacks from a distance, and they actually managed to injure Orsted, and he was forced to draw his sword. But he quickly closed the distance between them, and the fight began to go south. It got to the point where Rudeus was laying on the ground at Orsted's feet, basically defeated, and his hair had turned white from using all of his mana. And he started explaining his entire situation and begged Orsted to leave the man-god alone and to spare his family. But Orsted didn't listen, and he went in for a final blow, but something happened.